Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Studio 78 podcast. I am your host, Nache from NacheSnow.com. Welcome to episode number 152. Of course, the show notes for this page will be at NacheSnow.com/152. All right, folks, what are we talking about today? We're talking about the differences between business strategist versus a brand strategist versus a brand consultant. And we really break it down. And in it, really, I think, will help everyone decide which one might be right for them in various stages of their business. So I really dig deep in this because I think it is important for businesses to get help in order to figure out how to grow. But before I get into the episode, a few housekeeping items. The first being is there is a new voice messaging feature, my friends. If you go to the main podcast page over at NacheSnow.com, you can just click podcast or go to NacheSnow.com/studio78. You will see something that says send a voice message to Nache, and you can start recording and you can send me a little message that I will potentially play over the air. And if you just want to leave a message and don't want it played over the air, please make sure that you specify that and say, hey, this is so and so. Please do not post this on the air. I just wanted to leave you a message and say blah, blah, blah. But if you don't say that, then I figure it's fair game. And if it makes sense, I may play it on an episode. If you want to also leave a message for Lakay and I, definitely do that or respond to something we said. Please leave a message. I just implemented this feature about a week ago. I used to do this on my first podcast, and it was like a really cool feature. And me and my former podcast host used to get a lot of amazing messages. So I thought I would just bring that back again. So please leave me a message. Also, if you end up loving this episode, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate me 5 stars. I greatly appreciate it. If you're listening to this on YouTube, thumbs up would greatly be appreciated. All of that really, really helps the podcast. For any of you who may have made it out in the rain to see me sell the Life Cleanse Journal at Ipade, the co-working space in DC. I really appreciate that. That Maker's Market was so fun. I just got to connect with so many amazing women. It was just, I had a great time. I miss vending. I haven't vended in a few years, and I didn't realize how much I missed it until I went to that event. So, anywho, if any of you attended, thank you. If any of you purchased my digital or hard copy journal, I really appreciate that too. Your support is very, very appreciated. Okay, so now let's get to Enid. She is so amazing. I'm glad to have her back on the episode. If you're a longtime listener, she was on episode 104 entitled How to Successfully Rebrand Your Business on Any Budget. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to it, especially if you're trying to figure out how to brand your business. In this episode, as I mentioned earlier, we're digging into the strategist and consultant line of business when it comes to building a brand and a business. And so I'm glad to have her back on. And she also really talks too about how she's had to pivot again, in particular, because her last rebrand was right when COVID started. So, of course, a lot has changed for all of us, right? Without further ado, here is Enid. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
So, folks out there, for those who listened to the intro, the last time she was on was in April of 2020. And of course, I interviewed her beforehand because I like to bulk record. So, a lot has happened, I would say, in the last couple of years. I will definitely have a link in the episode to episode 104. It was called How to Successfully Rebrand Your Business on Any Budget. People love that episode. So I would say go back and listen to it and kind of hear the beginning of her story. So we're going to find out what's been going on since and what's going to happen in the future. But before we do that, can you quickly explain to them what you do, like how you make money?
Ooh, how I make money. Yeah, I, incredibly enough, am a successful brand designer and brand consultant. Who knew those things even existed? But they do, and they make money. Yeah, so basically, I help businesses build better brands that make them more money, in other words. I do everything from the brand strategy and business strategy, which basically means figuring out your services and your audience and what makes you unique. And then I also do all the design, which is the infamous logo that everyone thinks is a brand, but also all the colors and the fonts and all the really fun, like graphic stuff that people see and get excited about. And then I also do kind of like the post launch branding maintenance, which is your social media graphics if you need them, email marketing, websites, and all the other fun print materials like packaging and business cards that you might need after you launch. And I also consult on this. So sometimes people just come to me for advice and I love answering questions. It's my favorite thing to do. And then on the side, I'm also a storytelling coach. So I do the same thing that I do kind of for branding with the consulting, but for storytelling for people who want to tell a story either in their life or in their career or professionally or just to be a better storyteller in general. So that's kind of what I
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So last time we chatted, you had this whole rebrand that you did beginning to
I'm gonna cry already. Yeah.
And so what's changed? Anything?
Oh, just that I'm rebranding again. 2 years. Yes. Oh my gosh. So in 2020, right before 2020, actually March 1st, 2020, I launched my new brand with my new business name. I had switched from witchcraft branding to raw made because of many reasons that I think if you hear the first episode, I explain that. But let's just say I switched my name for a lot of good reasons. And at that time, I was rebranding because I wanted to really like go into the local market and just really like go into bigger businesses
Mm-hmm.
and just really get noticed by bigger budget people basically. 2 weeks after I launched my brand, there was a little thing called the lockdown, where the whole world shut down. A little thing called the COVID and the pandemic, and so
Right.
that plan went to the toilet really fast because there was nothing that I could do but be at home and try to reach people online. And most of the people that were online looking for branding were actually small to medium businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people that maybe worked at corporate but wanted to go on their own. Those
Mm-hmm.
big businesses were definitely not on Instagram during COVID. They were easily getting paid somehow, so some other way. So, but honestly, it was a blessing in disguise because now it's been 2 years since that, and I've gone through a lot of up and downs with my business. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of like making a lot of money one month, making no money the next month, really
Mm-hmm.
realizing the people that are coming to me and what they want from me, learning and getting more educated on how to do better brand strategy and business strategy and how to
Mm-hmm.
do my job better. And then so maybe like, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or so, I decided that it was time that I needed to rebrand because just the brand wasn't serving me anymore. Now it really wasn't communicating to the people that wanted to hire me. And I was
Mm-hmm.
missing out on really like selling them on what I got good at. And so now here I am in September of 2022 on the sixth anniversary of Raw Made, launching again as I'm keeping the name. The name's going to be the same, but I have a completely new messaging. It's more me. It's more in line with who I always wanted to be. It's more in line with the people that I want to work with. I'm going to have a new website, new social media content, like I said, new messaging, new services, that's been huge. New
Mm.
services, because I learned during this pandemic and during all this time at home that I needed to charge accordingly for what I do.
Yes, yes,
So new
yes.
services and a little bit of a new look, because I get bored really easily, and I was like, why not? If I'm gonna change everything else, I might as
It's
well
like,
change
let's
the
do it.
change the look too. I know, why not?
Yeah. Okay. Oh my goodness. So I have so many questions. There are a lot of people out there who have just started their own business, and maybe one month they'll make 5,000, and the next month 1,000, and the next month 10,000. How do you how do you
Mhm.
plan for that and make sure that you're okay month to month, as far as
Yeah,
paying rent and eating and
yeah.
bills, all that good stuff?
I think personally, because that literally describing what happened to me in in these past 2 years, I the learning curve was was what do I do when that happens, was like saving money basically. Like when I had all the money in the bank, I wouldn't spend all of it.
Mm,
Knowing that I needed it. That is like the short term, like put like a band-aid over it really quick fixer. But long term, it really is about fixing your services.
mm,
And that was the biggest lesson that I learned, that my services were not creating a stable income for me.
mm.
They were helping people, and people were getting successful and launching their brand and launching their own like businesses and getting their money, but I wasn't.
Right.
And so I had to take a little bit of my own medicine and do my own like business strategy that I was helping others with, and figure out how can I make services that give me the same amount of income every month, or around the same amount of income. So
Mm,
just as an example for me, I figured out that I need to do more retainer. Like I need to do more
mm, mm,
retainer work, because that way I know I can have a contract for 6 months and know that this client is going to pay me every month X amount for design work. Is
mhm,
design work my favorite thing to do? No, it's not. But I have the peace of mind that at least I have money coming in, and everything that comes on top of that is gravy?
mhm,
So you had to really figure out what is the service structure for you that really gives you that stable income.
mm.
And it really is, sometimes you have to like, it's like they say in for like writing, you have to kill your darlings, which is like you have to kill like the things that like, you really love sometimes. I'm not saying kill it, but maybe approach it in a way that is more smart to make you more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said two terms, but I wanted to just have you talk about what they mean because not everybody may understand the nuances. But you said brand strategy, right? And then you also said business strategies.
Ooh, yeah. That was one of
Yeah.
my this was one of my, like, pandemic findings that I think, like, blew my mind, and I was like, "I will never go back to how I did brands before."
Mm,
So, business strategy looks at, it's literally sitting down, and you can do it yourself if you want to, or you can have somebody help you, and figure out what your services are. Again, making sure those services are gonna actually be profitable. That's really important. So figuring out profitable services, figuring out who your target audience is, and also how you market these services to that target audience.
mm,
So
mhm,
that is basically what you need to have a business run, right? And then brand strategy is figuring out what the concept of your brand is that makes you unique from other people in your industry.
mm,
So you can have a business that doesn't have a brand and still make money.
mhm.
Not all businesses, and if you look down the street, I'm sure you'll find a ton of like those mom and pop shops that you're like has no sign and they're still open. That's a
Right.
business, and you don't discredit them. They have a good business model that's working. They might not have a brand, but they have a business, right?
Right.
But you can't have a brand without a business. But if you have a business and you put a brand on top, now you become a household brand, or a household like name. So
Mhm.
the brand is basically what is the concept and the style and the look and the vibe of the business that makes it unique from other people in that same industry.
So some folks out there have worked with a designer before. So to them, that's like easy. So you tell a designer, I need a new website or logo or what have you. You go back and forth and there's a concept. But how does a business or brand strategy look? I don't think people understand what exactly you get.
Yes, that's so what it looks like is a bunch of words. I'm not gonna lie. It looks like and I will say that I have for the past maybe 3 or 4 months, I've only done strategy work, which is great. I'm really happy that people are opening up to the idea that strategy is important and should happen before design.
Mm.
It's scary because you're not gonna get anything that you can use to launch.
Right?
You're not. But what you are getting is something that basically 9 out of 10 times, like, guarantees that when you launch, you're launching to success.
Mm.
And so what it literally so business strategy literally looks like a PDF full of with the plan in it.
Mm.
And in that plan, will you have some like specs of who your audience is and what your services are and how much you charge for that service and what that service name is and how that service works and what's offered and what you need to have to offer that service. And then you have maybe also, I tend to do a calendar of like the next 12 months. What is the business going to need to do? That's what a business strategy looks like. A brand strategy is a little bit more visual. That one typically has the infamous mood board that everyone like loves. That little mood board that shows you examples of what your brand could look like. It might have color choices already picked out.
Mm.
It'll also have like your brand voice, which is like how you write or speak on behalf of the brand. It has your brand values, your mission statements, your elevator pitch. All of these are just words. But the best thing about all of this is that all of these words, you will always use them. This
Mm.
turns
Mm.
into your website content and your social media content and your email content. Nothing
Mm.
gets wasted. And in fact, it really helps because all of my clients who do strategy first and then do design and then do the other things like the website and the emails and everything else, if they end up hiring a copywriter, the copywriter is like, their job is almost done because all that strategy work has created like a
Mm.
huge library of on brand content that can be used over and over again, at
Mm.
least for for years.
You mentioned your website currently isn't reaching now the customers you want to attract, right? And that you also have some new services. So, what are your new services? Are they kind of the brand and the business strategy or some other things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the my new website is actually a single page website. I simplified a lot. I simplified to just the essentials. And at some point next year, I'll probably launch a full site with like all the bells and whistles. But I realized that I really needed to not wait to launch these new services because it really was doing a disservice to everyone at this point. So I'm like, just let me just put it out so people know that it's there, and then I'll tinker with it later. That's a huge lesson that everyone should know is don't wait, just
Just
don't tinker.
right.
So my new services, well, the biggest new addition is the strategy. The business
Mm.
and brand strategy is now a single service that's offered by itself.
Mm.
And like I said, I've been booking already a ton of people into that service by itself. And then once that is done, then they can choose to move on to the second service, which is the design phase. And then
Mm.
that is purely just the core brand. That is the logo, the fonts, the colors, the things that you need to launch. And then the third service would be, or the third phase would be then the website and then any other things that you need that are specific to your business. So that could be maybe it's labels, maybe it is like things for your office, like signage,
Mm.
or maybe it is pitch decks or templates and stuff like that. So I think the biggest difference between how I'm offering things now is that I'm offering things in like phases. So you don't
Mm.
have to buy into everything. You can
Mhm.
just go into do strategy, or you can just do design, or you can just do the maintenance. And then on top of that, I'm offering consulting. So if you just want consulting, you can hire
Mm,
me for that
mm.
as well. Or if you just want retainer work, which is basically like an ongoing designer, you can do that as well. But yeah, the biggest difference that I think people are really excited about is that I basically broke up this huge branding package that people were like overwhelmed with, and now you can kind of get in wherever you need it. Yeah.
So you're almost like, because would you say like with the business and the brand strategy? So is it kind of like you're, hopefully I'm not making up a word, but a
Mhm.
strategist and a consultant, and then you also do the retainer.
Yeah, basically there's brand I'm basically a brand designer, a brand strategist, and a brand consultant in one.
Ah, okay. I was
Yeah.
wondering how it's gonna. Okay, I like that. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I tend to just say brand designer and consultant or brand because people don't even or nowadays people do know what brand strategist is still. And maybe I will add brand strategist to the long line of my title. But I usually just say brand designer so people know that I do more than just design. I typically look at the brand as a whole. And then the
Right.
consulting is always, like I said, my favorite part. I love just getting questions asked and just answering them or giving feedback is really one of my like it's one of my things that I trained on from early on, and I
Hmm.
just love doing that so much. Yeah.
I've got people out there that have businesses, so I really do want them to like really understand like the different elements, right? So you broke down like the business and then the brand strategy. And so someone out there might be like, "Well, how is a consultant different?" And you kind of explained it because it's
Hmm.
really kind of a question and answer and giving advice versus you giving them a
Right.
PDF, right, of like all the
Right.
things. But yeah, can you just like break that
Yeah.
down for them?
So the way that I explain this is that okay, a brand consultant is basically somebody who will look at what you have, they'll audit what you have, and they will give you advice based on experience and based on like knowledge. They shouldn't
Mm.
be giving you advice based on opinion. That is not a good consultant. A good consultant gives you advice based off experience and knowledge and just common practices.
Mm.
And so the difference also between a coach and a consultant is that a coach coaches you on how to do things on your own. Consultant just tells you what to fix and then you have to figure it out. I don't love the coaching process. I don't like I don't want to sit next to you and teach you how to do it. I'm just going to tell you this is what you need to do and then you figure it out,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you figure it out. So then there's also a brand strategist is somebody who literally comes up with a strategy for your brand, or a business strategist comes up with a strategy for your brand. So that is a little bit of me doing it for you.
Mm.
And that is why that service comes at a little bit of a higher price level, because versus me just telling you what I think you should do, now I'm doing some things for you.
Mm.
So a brand strategist is a little bit more, it's a tier two. And then a brand
Mm.
designer
Mm.
is basically somebody who's literally designing this brand for you. It is very similar to a graphic designer. It's almost the same thing, except that a graphic designer, sometimes they don't really think of the whole brand. Sometimes you're just like, oh, I want this done, and they'll do it for you, whatever you tell them to do. Whereas I
Mhm.
don't take instruction or direction from the client. I, as a brand designer, I will let you know what you need to do or what needs to be done to get the brand to success. I'm not gonna basically make a logo that you tell me how to do or
Mm.
whatever, recreate whatever you want, basically.
No, this is good stuff. And so I'm going deep with this because I already have the title of this episode in my head
Oh.
because I think people know what a graphic designer is, but a brand designer, brand strategist, brand consultant, people are like, do I need that? And what is that? And what's involved? And so that's why I'm digging deep
Hmm.
into
Yeah.
like what
Well,
you
it gets a little messy because nowadays we kind of do there's like multi-title people like me. Like I know a lot of
do.
people that do I know graphic designers that also do a little bit of consulting and stuff. And so
Right.
it's like there's nothing wrong with any of the titles. I want to be clear, like I when people ask me what I do on the street, I'm like, I'm a graphic designer because I don't want to
Because
explain this
people
whole thing,
get it,
right?
understand it. Yeah.
People understand what a graphic designer is. And so there's a lot of like things that are similar among all of us. I
Yeah.
think that the only thing that maybe a business that is hearing this podcast would need to know is that if you're at the point where you're not getting what you want from your business, if you're not getting enough leads, or if you're not making enough sales, or you're not growing where you want to get to where you want to be, then that's the point where you need to look for some branding help, not
Mm.
just design help. If your business is going great and strong and you don't need to grow right now, or it's perfect, maybe just a graphic designer is great for you because they help you sustain whatever your marketing needs are. But
Mm. Mhm.
if you are at a point where you're like, this is a problem, or this is an issue, or is an issue that's coming, that's when you need to find some branding help. And I would say reach out to any of the branding like titles, and usually they'll be able to help you regardless of what the second word is, brand whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so for example, let's use a brand consultant and a brand strategist, right? So, with a consultant, right, would you just meet with that person once versus a brand strategist multiple times? And when would
Mhm.
you go with one over the other if you
Uh,
were a
yeah.
business?
So I don't know how, I mean, I can't speak for every consultant or strategist. I can tell you how I do it.
Mm,
So for consulting, you can either hire me hourly, like on an hourly rate, and we get on a video call and you send me ahead of time everything that you have for me to audit. And then on that video call, we'll just go over it verbally. It's really like, it's not a form, you don't get anything written. We're just gonna talk about it and go through the points, and then you can take notes if you want to, kind of a thing. That's
right.
kind of like how I do consulting. I also do consulting packages where it's 6 hours of my time over 2 months, and we can divide that between video calls or also small design tasks where maybe, let's for example, if in the audit I'm like, your logo is good, but it could be a little better if we change the font. Maybe
Mm,
we use some of those hours towards changing the font, for
mm,
example.
mm-hmm.
So that's what a consulting package mix in. That's how I kind of mix it a little bit. I make it a little spicy, putting a little bit of design in there. But typically, it's just you get on a video call and you just talk, right? Kind of like therapy a little bit. A strategist, that is a whole process. So my strategy process starts with they have to fill out a lengthy worksheet that
Mm,
gives me a lot of information. Then we have a discovery call where we talk for a couple hours about everything that has to do with the business and how it came to be and what's working, what's not working. And then I basically disappear for a couple weeks and I write the strategy. It's like a
mm,
20 plus page strategy. And
mm,
so I write the strategy out, and then I present the strategy and make sure that we're all in agreement. And then the last part of the strategy is to figure out what are the next steps. Are the
mm,
next
mm.
steps to start designing if you don't have anything? If you do have a brand, do we need to tweak things? What the strategy process looks like. And it typically takes like 2 months at least. It's a
Mm,
more lengthy process.
mm.
So that's the difference between the two, at least for me.
I like that because yeah, with the consultant, it's like they might just, I assume, just email you and be like, "Hey, I'm having issues with my social media or my website isn't getting any clicks, my SEO is what have you." And then you guys jump on a call and you talk them through potentially
Yeah,
what the issues could be and what maybe
correct.
they
Yeah.
need to do. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I typically do the package, because sometimes getting on a call just to say this is what's wrong isn't really helpful. Because then it's like, okay, well, good luck, go figure it out.
Unless they're like a action oriented person, right? If they just
Yeah.
need to know, but a lot of
Yeah.
people aren't.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to do a lot of those because part of my rebrand, I used to take a lot of lower budget clients, and so they
Mm.
didn't have the budget for multiple hours. So
Mm.
if you can just pay an hour, then I would be like, okay, here's what you need to know. Good luck.
Yeah.
But I didn't even mention this. I made a course during the COVID times.
Yeah.
I forgot about this. I made a course called Self-Made Solopreneur, which is basically a DIY branding course that teaches you everything I do for every client. It teaches you how to do it yourself.
Mm,
And
mm.
so now that I have that course, whenever I get a client that really can't afford like a bigger package where I can really help them, I'm like, just take the course and do it on your own because it's really
Mm,
in your budget and you can do it at your own pace and it
mm.
goes really in depth. It's just that I'm not there with them every step of the way. I'm with them in the video, but that's pretty much it. And also the course is cool because the course gives you access to the Facebook group, the private Facebook
Mm.
group, where you can ask any question and I answer it. So you basically are getting the consulting for free if you think about it. Yeah.
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 I know you're about to do like the website. You're starting off with a single page, then you'll modify it as you go, which I love that.
Yeah.
It's just do it and don't
Do it.
overthink it, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes, and maybe because you're dealing with bigger businesses, this isn't an issue because they know what a consultant and a strategist is. But I was going to ask you, how do you market yourself in a way where you can convince people who've never had a brand strategist before
Yeah.
to pay for your services, like that they need
Yeah.
your services and not just think of you only as a graphic designer?
Mhm. So it's a lot of one of my favorite like rules is repeat, repeat, repeat. My favorite one of my favorite like marketing rules is repeat, repeat, repeat. So I market usually most of it is through Instagram. I mostly have a referral based business.
Mm,
And I do have some stragglers here and there, but the one platform that I use for marketing the most is Instagram. And
mm,
so it's a lot of repeat, repeat, repeat about the value of strategy before design. So
mm,
I probably once a week mention this. And so I'm like constantly educating people on why strategy is important before design. And you'd be surprised, a lot of people like will DM me where they're like, "This is really helpful because I don't know where to start and I've been lost, and I'm actually would be more comfortable doing strategy than jumping into design because I don't even know what I want." Especially
mm,
because people think that they have to tell the designer what to design.
mhm,
And so because they don't know what to tell them, they automatically know that they need some sort of strategy help, and so it works out.
mm,
So I haven't had a lot of trouble in marketing strategy. I do a lot of educating on my marketing platforms, on my biweekly emails. If you want to be on my email list, they're all educational. Every 2 weeks, I send out an educational email teaching you basically like the importance of something and branding and how to do it. So that's been huge. And then a lot of people just like want to get on a call and they're like, I want a logo. And then on the call, I'm like, hey, let's talk a
Actually,
little
what you
bit. And
need.
then, yeah. So I would say that educating people has been a game changer for me. I definitely learned that in the 2 years of the pandemic, how educating people made my sales increase incredibly.
Mm. No, I love that. And actually it's funny, you've given me some ideas and people have probably have heard me talk about this on the podcast before because I'm productivity junkie and so I'm like, how can I help people with
Yeah.
productivity? And I bounce back between consulting and coaching and this and that. And you know what? I am totally in the consultant bandwagon because
Yeah. Yes. It's so easy. I mean, honestly, it's like you get paid. It's the least amount of work and you get paid. I
and I
mean,
feel
as
like as long as
somebody,
people take action, because for
I
me,
know.
it's like with the coaching, you can, and I've had a coach before, right? And so the coach can kind of like help you through it, which is great. But sometimes when you have someone like literally holding your hand, once they go
Mm,
away, you don't learn to take action yourself, right?
yeah.
Whereas I feel like with consulting, like if you pay someone $300, whatever it is an hour, and they're like, okay, if you want to be better, you need to do this and that. Hopefully, there's this incentive, right? Like, I just pay all this
Yeah.
money for someone to tell me how to be better, and all I need to do is do it,
Yeah. Well,
right?
I will be controversial with this because you know that I live up to my brand name. I'm definitely raw. So there's two things. that I actually educate a lot of fellow designers on is that you have to let go that some people are going to pay you and not do anything with what you give them.
That
And
is
you
so
have to let
true.
it go and you have to get your bag, put the money in your bag, walk away and say I did a great job and that's not on me.
Right.
Because in the beginning, I would give me a lot of stress. I'd be like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have charged them because they weren't ready." And like, you have to make a living in order to help other people. You got to make a living. So some people will just not do anything with it, and that's okay.
I
And then,
agree. I
yeah.
agree.
And then the other thing, other thing, is that at the end of the day, it's a sales tool because let's say I consult with you and I tell you what you need to do. The reality is that you won't be able to do all of that
Mm.
because
You
maybe
need
not you, you're
help.
more creative, but a lot of my clients aren't creative at all. They're
No,
in
I
totally
get it.
different industries.
Yeah.
And so they will come back to you if you tell them what to do and they can't do it, they will come back to you. And that's
Mm.
just how the world works. It's not me being sneaky, but I want to help them and I know I can help them. And so the only way to teach them to come back is by telling them what to do.
That makes sense too, because it's funny. Some Lakay who sometimes co-hosts with me, she was like, "Well, if people don't do the thing, then you can set up a whole little Notion workflow, like you've done for other
Mhm.
people, that they will never set up themselves, right? And
Mhm.
then assist, right? So for those
Totally.
people who do need that little,
Yeah.
you can give it to them, that little push."
This is why templates are so important. Like, I'm a big proponent of making templates for clients where it's do it yourself until you can't do it yourself anymore and then come back.
I love it. Okay, so before we get to the wrap up questions, what's what's next? What's on the horizon
Oh, I
for
think
you?
so. Right now, I just want this launch to be successful. I'm putting all my effort into revamping my social media content because now everything is reels and videos and I just want to be marketing myself better, so I'm really focused on this new brand launch and I really want to increase my sales so that I can provide a better experience for my clients.
Yeah.
I think so that is taking up most of my time honestly is really
Mm,
like because this business started as a necessity and
mm.
so it was kind of built on a rickety structure and so making it a solid structure where I can live a life that I am in peace is very important. And then
Mm.
also building up raw storytelling and my storytelling coaching that I mentioned at the beginning is very important to me too, because that is how I kind of give back and how I
Yeah.
help people. And so, and it has nothing to do with branding. So I kind of like that it's like separate. And so those two things are really my focus right now. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I've enjoyed this conversation because now, number one, people, if you need a brand strategist, business strategist, consulting, you know where to
Yeah.
go. And she has a class just to kind of, so you can dip your toe,
Mhm.
if you're not ready to commit. But I love that you have different tiers for people too, right? Because everybody
Yeah.
is in different seasons of their business.
Right.
But okay, so how do you stay organized as you have like these multiple
Mhm.
endeavors going on and all the things? Like, what do you use?
I
Any
was
tools,
thinking about
products?
this
Yeah.
because I remember what I answered last time, and I don't want to give you the same ones, but I still use Asana. I still use Asana. I still color code my emails on my calendar. I think what I don't I think those 3 things are hmm, honestly, I live by a song. I know what I have a new one. I have a new one.
Oop, oop.
So I have Chrome. I use Chrome, Google Chrome,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then Google Chrome, like their tab at the top has been revitalized. You can now group
Mm,
tabs into like a group, obviously, like a labeled group. You can pin like frequent sites that you visit at the beginning.
mm,
And so I always have Asana pinned there because like I said, I'm an Asana freak and I have all my emails pinned, like grouped. And so that has saved me so much time, like opening freaking tabs or finding tabs that I will
mm-hmm.
say that this is my favorite new hack that I am living by right now.
You guys, I can second that
Yeah.
because I am on Chrome right now and I have Grammarly pinned. I have my Shopify site pinned. I got my WordPress site pinned. I've
Yeah,
got
it's
like
been a life.
Calendly pinned. I've
I'm
got like
so
10
I
pins
fucking
up
love it.
there.
And I can color code the tab groups too, because you know how much I love color coding. So I was like, this is for me. This is
Yeah, I mean that's like a game changer. So I didn't even know about or just didn't even think about like the group. So I need to like Google that
oh
and
yeah.
check that
Yeah.
out. Yeah, because
Yes.
sometimes it'll get a little wild because I'll have like multiple windows open.
No, you don't need to do that anymore. And the best thing is that you can minimize the group to like make more space in your tab so you can add more tabs and more groups.
I love this. I love
I
this.
know. This is my I was like, I really wanted to find a new one. Yeah.
And so, do you have a hobby? What do you do when you're not designing and
Well,
consulting?
yeah, I'm a workaholic. I think I don't know if I mentioned this the last time, but my hobby is watching TV. I've loved since I was a kid. I'm obsessed with TV. That's why I have a TV tattoo and so on and so on. It's my happy place. It's where I get a lot of inspiration, and I usually work while I watch TV because I'm a workaholic. But I guess if I had to add a new hobby, it's not new actually. It's an old hobby. Is that I do tarot on the side. Um,
Mm,
I do not professionally. I do it for friends or for myself. I pull a card every day, and so that is like one of the few things from witchcraft branding that I still
yeah.
keep to this day. I'll admit, yeah, I kind of don't have as much witchy stuff in my brand anymore, but the tarot I'm still near and dear to my heart, and so I say I think it's a really cool way to open a conversation with your subconscious. So I say if you want to find a new fun hobby that you don't have to leave the house, that's a good way to go.
So, you said your first hobby was watching TV? Three
Mhm.
things people should watch right now.
Oof. Well, Stranger Things, obviously. I'm sure
For sure.
everyone saw that, but just in case they were wondering, actually, I'm rewatching Alias. Alias and Buffy were my favorite shows when I was growing up. So I'm rewatching Alias, and I think everyone should watch it. So that's an old one. And I'm thinking, I'm torn. The Magicians is a great show. These are not super
Mm.
new, but
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
love
No,
it.
no, no.
I'm
It
trying to
doesn't
think
have
of
to be.
something.
Yeah.
I'm really into documentaries right now. So I know. Blown Away on Netflix is a competition about glass blowing. It is so beautiful.
Ooh.
It is low stakes, so you don't won't be scared or you won't. It's like HGTV but for glass blowing. So that is definitely one of my favorite shows right now. That and Nailed It because I'm a Nicole Byer like super fan. So I will say those. I say find things that bring you joy instead of like because there's so much like hardcore stuff out there right now.
All right. And where can the listeners find you? They've heard you talk about your
Oh
services. They now
yeah,
understand the differences and the tiers, and they're like, I
yeah.
need her.
So to keep it simple, because I have a million and one different places to go, I would say go to rawmade.co. That's co without the M. So rawmade.co. I am at rawmade on Instagram. That's where you can DM me and find me the best. I'm also on Facebook if you just search rawmade. And if you want to know more about my course, Self-Made Solopreneur, I would say just DM me on Instagram or email me through rawmade.co, and I will send you a link to sign up for Self-Made Solopreneur because I don't want to give you too many links. Or if you're interested in the storytelling show or aspect that I was mentioning, that's called Raw Storytelling. That's rawstorytelling.org. And that's also all linked from my website and from my social media because everything raw is connected basically.
Yes. And of course, in the show notes for this, I will have all the links that I can find and have for Enid will be on there because I'm a super stalker. So
Oh,
you will
cool.
be able to find
Yay, thank you. I know it gets very confusing when I have 20 million links that all start with Rob, but
right.
it still makes sense. It's working so far, so I'm not going to change it.
Yeah, but no, thank you
Awesome.
for coming back on. I
Thank you for
mean,
having me
yeah,
on.
it's been great. Yeah.
And I promise you, in 2 years, when we do the third one, I will have the same brand. I promise you, it won't be a new email and a new URL and a new everything. I promise it'll be a lot easier.
Do not make promises you cannot
Oh no,
keep.
I'm making a public promise because I cannot go through this again.
You heard that, people. You heard that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you.
All right. You have made it to the end, my friends. Thank you for making it to the end. And I hope you found this to be really helpful because with coaches and strategists and consultants, sometimes I be getting confused too. And so her breaking down her interpretation for all these different professions really helped me. So if you found this helpful too, what you can do, right? You can leave me a message, my friends. You can send me a voicemail if you head on over to that podcast page. You can send me a little something like, Nache, this was very helpful, and potentially it could get played on the podcast. Or you could leave me a traditional message. That's fine too. But really, sincerely, I hope that you guys found this very, very useful. And if you're in this stage where you do need some help in branding, marketing, what have you, that you found this to be very useful so you know where your next investment should be made. All right, you know the drill, my friends, if you haven't already, because you've been busy, just take 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Please rate me 5 stars on Apple Podcast. I'd be forever grateful. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, please give me a thumbs up. And remember, I have a whole newsletter too, you guys. If you want to hear from me in your email, remember to sign up for my newsletter on my website, nashesnow.com/newsletter, or you'll see it almost on any page you go on to on my website because I tell you what, people, newsletters are important. Okay. All right. Have a beautiful week, my friends, and I'll talk to you next week.